Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Superlative. I am your host, Edward Bushi. Every episode, one guest, a founder, investor, operator, or someone who has built or completed at a level or competed at a level most people only read about. The conversation covers their journey, what they discovered along the way that most people never get to hear, and where they think their field is going. No edits, no post production, just one sharp conversation, and let's dive into it. I want to welcome our guest today, this Friday morning, Kevin Zhang, the co-founder and CEO of Loon Finance. Uh, Kevin, would you like to open it with two sentences about what you're doing and what you're building,
Yeah, no,
and then
thanks,
we'll get
Edward.
back to it.
Thanks for having me. I've been spending a lot of my time lately working on a Canadian dollar-backed stablecoin. A lot of changes have been happening from a regulatory perspective in Canada to support a Canadian dollar stablecoin, especially Canadian dollar sovereignty on the blockchain. I've been in the space
Huge.
for about 10 years, building on stablecoins for the past 7 plus years. And I think we really need a Canadian dollar stablecoin. So I'm trying to bring one to market.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And yeah, we definitely need one right now. Not a lot comes to mind and is used by people right now in the Canadian ecosystem. So I want to park that, and I want to just rewind a little bit into hopefully where we think you started, right? You went to Waterloo for systems design engineering. That's not a typical path into fintech. What were you interested in building before you knew that finance would be the field you built in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, to give people a little bit more context on what like system design engineering is, and it's not your typical electrical or software or like civil engineering. It's what we consider a multidisciplinary type of engineering. So we actually do courses in a little bit of everything. So it could be mechanical, it could be electrical, it could be civil.
Mm,
We do a little bit of everything, and then in our later years, third and fourth year, we sort of specialized a little bit. I sort of went a little bit more of like management science and software side. So I've like as part of like the Waterloo system, you get co-op placements. Well, not placements, but like you get co-op opportunities. And I was able to sort of take advantage of learning at some of the Canadian banks, like especially the major banks I've worked at, probably the three out of the five Canadian major banks, but I also did a stint in Silicon Valley. So you really bring those two together, and when like crypto sort of like came out like with Bitcoin and Ether, I thought it was like the perfect marriage of these two systems, like finance and like technology.
great, great. And you know what? It turned like you actually, before starting your crypto journey, like your crypto founder journey, right? It seemed that you worked in a bank. Was it TD?
Yes, yes. I was at
Yeah.
TD Bank, and it's funny enough. It's sort of come a little full circle. I was actually working on their FX systems when I
Mm,
was at TD Bank, and now I am looking to build like FX systems on the blockchain, and putting like a Canadian dollar stablecoin and US dollar stablecoin and creating FX systems around that. So it's really come full circle in like about a decade.
wow. That's actually, yeah, that's actually very fascinating that you started trying to build FX systems for them, but but now is the moment to actually execute on that. Um, so like, you went from TD to Consensus, right? And then left Consensus to co-found Patri. At some point, you stopped being the person who builds infrastructure for big institutions and became the person who builds an institution per se. So what made that switch feel right or necessary?
Yeah, it's interesting because like went from TD to consensus, and I think that was an amazing opportunity to really um, be deep in the industry at a time when the industry was very sort of like raw and then early, and got to meet a lot of great people there. But ultimately, in 2019, my co-founder and I started Paytree, mainly because of the downfall of Quadriga CX in Canada. Like,
Hmm.
Canadians had really no other option in terms of buying cryptocurrency. Like Quadriga, like if it
That
had
was huge.
properly like maintained itself and did not like take funds from like of users, and I guess like if the founder didn't supposedly die, then I think it would probably be like Canada's biggest exchange like today. Like at the time it was, and I think it actually did have a pretty good reputation at the time.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, a lot of things happened and caused a lot of Canadians to lose a lot of money. And like our whole thesis was that you shouldn't need to hold your funds on an exchange to get access to crypto. We want consumers to come into the ecosystem and be able to buy and hold cryptocurrency themselves. So we're a non-custodial solution at Paytree, and we just help people buy stablecoins. And when we started, like stablecoins were like very very small. Like they
Hmm.
probably had a like combined market cap of like $1 billion between like Circle and Tether, and like but we thought that these were the perfect sort of instruments that would onboard users and make them comfortable like sort of like holding and using cryptocurrency. So that's the first step, like getting access to crypto. Once you get access to like any type of crypto, be it stablecoins or whatever, it's very easy to switch it between like any other asset. Like we have decentralized exchange, we have centralized exchange, whatever it is. It is very easy to go from crypto to crypto. But like especially like 7 years ago, going from fiat to crypto was actually very very difficult, and
Yeah.
vice versa, going from crypto to fiat. There are a lot of steps, a lot of fees. It's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, but like it was really a challenge back then.
Yeah. And like I remember it was like even managing self-custodial wallets was not intuitive back then
Yep.
too. And yeah, like I like your point where when you have stable coins, you can easily the jump from stable coins to other cryptos is much easier, right? And so I wanted to when you started Paytree, right? I hope I got the date right, 2019, right?
Yep.
What was it? What were the first 6 months like? I know you came off the back of of Quadriga, but uh, like how what did it take for you to like get people to know about stablecoins and adopt it?
That's a very good question, because like it took us about a year. My co-founder and I, we left Consensus. Took us about a year. We started in early 2019. We didn't launch Patreon until like January of 2020. So it
Ooh,
took us
yeah.
about a year to like build up the system, get the banking relationships, get the licensing, get like all the infrastructure like ready for people to actually use it. So like when you say first 6 months was a lot of like setup, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of um, building up that like initial piece of the system that frankly currently still runs today.
Mm,
So it took a little while. It's a lot easier to start up like these days, but back then it was pretty novel. Like it wasn't something that like it was like you can buy off the shelf. Like we had to piece it together and really like build a sort of like a new product at that
mm,
time. And to give you a little bit of background, when we first launched, like we did not have a lot of users. Like from beginning of 2020 to like middle of 2020, we didn't get a lot of volume. Like frankly, we actually considered shutting it down at some point, but we sort of got lucky. And I think every sort of entrepreneur relies a little bit of like timing and luck as well. You definitely have to be able to make some of that happen. But like we got lucky with sort of DeFi summer heating up in
mm,
the middle of 2020. Like COVID hit, and people were getting stimulus checks, and people were really experimenting with DeFi at that point in time, where you had lots of like interesting like farming activity happening in sort of DeFi, and especially like on Ethereum, where people would be farming, sushi and all these like new and interesting tokens, and playing these sort of DeFi games
Yeah.
around these assets that sparked the need for sort of stablecoins or like on ramping of like fiat to crypto. And when people were looking for options to do that, they landed on Patreon, and we sort of just happened to be there at the right place at the right time, sort of thing.
That's huge. Like you gotta. It sounds like part of like being an entrepreneur is like you gotta like survive long enough to expose yourself to these lucky moments. So would there be anything else that you would say like Kevin of 2026 knows now that you would tell your Kevin of 2019?
Yeah, I would have just bought a lot more Bitcoin and Ether back then, but
Ah!
but no, like honestly, the thing is the industry changes really fast. Like it's
Mm,
really hard to plan even like 6 months ahead. Like you can only work with the information that you have at that point in time, and things like always like shift. Like markets turn from bull to bear in an instance, and really you just have to keep adapting and like know when to like push when you can, and
mm.
really narrative matters a lot. So like, and narratives always change quite a bit, especially in the crypto verse. So you always have to sort of try to anticipate and try to adapt to these like changing narratives.
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, uh, talk about changing narratives, right? Like, if I got my research correct, like Patri, uh, and I'm glad you actually stuck with like developing and running Patri, because you eventually got to a point where you're moving $200 million, right? And this was, if correct me if I'm wrong, in CAD C volume before you spun it into Loon, right? So
Mhm.
most people building stablecoin infrastructure at that stage would have kept scaling the product that they started with. Uh, what did you see in CAD C data or in conversations that made you spin it out into its own business?
So the reason why we actually started a Canadian dollar stablecoin, like we were like experimenting with this back in 2021, like, and this came from learning from basically building the Patriot business,
Hmm.
where we do a lot like when you really break down what Patriot is, like a lot of our business is really just traditional like forex. We just move money between like US dollars and Canadian dollars back and forth. We do hedging. We do like a lot of that sort of traditional FX sort of infrastructure and that business model.
Hmm.
But we, instead of just like quote unquote like fiat US dollar to fiat Canadian dollars, we're just doing like crypto like US dollars to like fiat Canadian dollars or vice versa. So the way that we were sort of thinking about it, if we were able to have a crypto version of the Canadian dollar, we can almost automate a lot of the things that we're doing at Pastry. And what Pastry ends up being is like frankly just a place to sort of mint and redeem
Hmm.
like the Canadian dollar stable coin. And we want to at the end of the day facilitate a market between CAD-C and USDC or USDT or any other like US dollar asset. Like we care about like that sort of that FX sort of business more than we care about sort of the minting and redemption. That is just how we get access to the FX flow. And what we want to do is provide institutional FX rates to retail users. So how do we do
Interesting.
that? Like we thought that actually the easiest way would be doing it on chain, on the blockchain, allowing users to get access to the system that is sort of decentralized and permissionless. So and 24 hours. Like it doesn't rely on just simply like Patriot's like operations. We just need to do the minting and redemption, and
Mm,
the system sort of like works itself out. So we've had that like thesis for a very long time. Unfortunately, back in 2021, the timing just wasn't right. I think the whole like global sort of ecosystem was like still very negative towards cryptocurrencies. Like governments were generally not very supportive of putting their currency on the blockchain. You didn't see a lot of stable coins getting like tokenized and like put on the blockchain, and you
mm,
weren't getting a lot of regulatory clarity and guidance during this time. I think that all changed about a year ago with the whole Genius Act, and then everyone else around the world is
mm,
really starting to look at it, particularly in Canada. That really jump started sort of a wave of like central banks and I guess like thinking about how the blockchain sort of moves into their monetary like policy, and same with like Canada, Bank of Canada, Department of Finance. They're looking at how a Canadian dollar stablecoin fits into their agenda.
yeah. Yeah. So like I one of the things that I've learned when chatting with off ramps, right, from other countries, is
Mm.
that they have incoming funds in USDC, right,
Hmm. Yep.
or US dollars, but they have to like convert it into the local currency.
Hmm.
It could be rupees or reals or Filipino pesos, for example. Uh, it's interesting that when on the CAD-C side, you're easily turning that USDC into CAD-C, right? And then it begs the question, right? Because this CAD-C could be converted to CAD and then sent to a bank account, but
Hmm.
it could be kept as CAD-C,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then it could
On
be
chain.
on chain. It could be transacted in local stores. So um, is that a vision that you guys are also preparing for as well?
I think we want to give users the option of
Mm,
converting from, let's just say you start off with USDC, and then
mm,
you have the option of converting it to either like CAD-C, CADC, or converting it to like CAD fiat.
mm,
So being able to have that option at any point in time allowed for more like flexibility and freedom of like how you sort of like manage your own funds. And
yeah,
sometimes you might be able to get either discounts or be able to move money faster and easier, cheaper by like keeping it on chain. So people prefer to keep it on chain.
mm,
Sometimes you don't want to just like keep moving back between fiat and crypto and back and forth, because sometimes there are like delays in these systems. They're not like perfectly matched,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
if you need to move funds, I don't know, let's just say you are lending and borrowing on chain, and you might be getting liquidated, or you have some kind of trading position. You want to at least have some kind of like a crypto asset on hand, so that you can sort of top up margin positions, whatever it is, and you're not
yeah, very
going
quickly.
from like fiat to crypto and then doing that, because there could be delays, and that's why like you might choose to hold funds in crypto.
Yeah, you're right about that. When it comes to trading, liquidation risk is like really painful. I
Hmm.
can't imagine. I can't imagine being in a state where like, oh, I need to fund the account, but then it takes like an hour, and then you're about to be liquidated in 5 minutes.
Yep, exactly.
Damn. Yeah. So, talking about on-chain, talking about programmatically, right? You in the onboarding call that we had earlier, you said something that stuck with me, right? That that the smart contracts are not the hard part, right? What is the hard part? Like, and why does almost everyone in the space focus on the wrong layer?
Yeah, like the technology, especially around a stable coin, it's trivial. Like it's been done.
Mm,
It's been done for years. It's been audited. It's like you don't even want to change it, frankly, because like the more you change it, the less secure it becomes, and more smart contract with you introduce. So you want to be using tried and true smart contracts. So that is again like the easy part. The hard part is like regulatory. compliance, like AML, KYC, like all that like needs to be built around this like stablecoin ecosystem. And frankly, there's no like perfect, off the shelf sort of system that does everything. You sort of have
Hmm.
to piece it together, and it differs from like one region to another. So you really have to adapt the technology to the rules and really like pair them together, and then really and above all that, you have the regulatory stuff that constantly keeps changing, especially
Uh,
as you have different people come into power and everything. Like regulation change, like on a dime. So you always have to stay on top of that. So like legal, like compliance, all that stuff. Fraud,
hmm.
also being another one. So a lot of that stuff is the hard stuff, and not so much the core technology of a stablecoin.
Yeah, yeah. Like even when I have conversations with my co-founder, right? Like having to, I guess, curate and adapt like what we're building to fit with a jurisdiction or a regime is very can be it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So talking about Canada's digital economy, we've been in the regime of using USD stablecoins for years, right? And then you've called this exporting value abroad. And what does this actually cost Canada, right? Not in the abstract, but in concrete terms that a CFO or policymaker would feel.
Well, like I would take it to sort of like a one step above. I think it's not
Okay.
even about like the CFOs. It's about monetary sovereignty at the end of the day. So like the Bank of Canada, the Department of Finance, like the finance minister. These are the people that should really care about this, because like we're not giving Canadians options to actually even use a Canadian dollar stablecoin. They have to convert their Canadian dollars to US dollars, and that's exporting value. Like that's allowing the US dollar to get stronger, because you're creating more demand for it, and you're actually selling off Canadian dollars to move into US dollars. And we have to do that because like there are no other options in the space. You can't even hold Canadian dollars if you wanted to. And like frankly, all these like DeFi products are centered around a US dollar economy, which is
Mm.
fine. And we understand that the US dollar is generally the global reserve currency, but at least give the option to Canadians, especially if they want to, like, let's just take a loan against their Bitcoin or Ether. They can at least take it in Canadian dollars and not US dollars, as to themselves to FX risk of like taking that loan, because like they might be taking the loan out in US dollars, but they have to convert it to Canadian dollars to pay whatever asset, pay taxes, whatever it is, in Canadian dollars, because they live in Canada. But then the FX rate can change on them, and then they might
Yeah.
be owing more by the time they repay their loan. So like these systems are like perfect, but we want to at least give users options to transact and trade and use Canadian dollars, if it works better for them. Because if not, like everyone will just like default to the US dollar because there's just no other option.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, like, is there but now that I want to get into like Loon, what you guys are building right now, right? So like it seems that you giving an option to Canadians right now is a very big uh, uh, need, right, to offer as a product. Would you happen to also notice other issues or pains that a stable coin right now would be needed now more than ever for for the Canadian ecosystem.
I think this is not so much just like the Canadian ecosystem, but I think
Yeah.
as more and more systems move towards 24/7 availability,
Mm,
we're going to be needing more and more sort of like stablecoin and like blockchain and crypto infrastructure. Because frankly, we like being in Bitcoin, Ether, crypto space. We've been like dealing with a 24/7 ecosystem for like over a decade. like 15 plus years working in 24/7 markets, because Bitcoin just never stops. It is
Yeah.
constantly traded, and it doesn't matter if you're asleep. Like, markets are open, liquidity is flowing, people are transacting with it, and frankly, our traditional financial systems aren't really built to do that, and frankly, they're learning a lot about financial system, like 24/7 financial system, from the crypto market, and how they can sort of adapt this to traditional finance. And as more and more um, sort of this traditional financial infrastructure moves to a 24/7 market, it
Yeah.
becomes more and more important. And frankly, like, news doesn't stop on the weekend. Like, Trump can do whatever he wants on a Friday night when the markets close, and you have to wait till Monday to react to it. But
Mhm.
people are already trading that on prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi and Hyperliquid and all that
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like, these are all, like, crypto infrastructure that people are already sort of front running the news, and making bets, and uh, placing their positions on a Saturday, on a Sunday, before the rest of the market sort of wakes up and allows the traditional markets to trade. And if that becomes more and more prevalent, and more volume and liquidity moves that way, it becomes like the source of truth. Like, people are going to go
Mhm.
to these markets, these 24/7 markets, on the weekends, and it is literally going to be the market. Like, it is going to be the source of truth. And then when Monday morning hits, the reference price is probably going to be very close to what these markets are at that point in time, because, like, people are already trading on these systems in real time. So
Mhm.
they need to adapt, because people are gonna, like, now they have options to trade 24/7. They're gonna do it. They're not gonna wait till Monday morning, and they're gonna have to create these systems to adapt to the demand.
Yeah. That's really profound. You're right that even right now, there's like, for lack of a better word, like temporal arbitrage. Trump does
Mhm.
something, people make a bet on the weekend, and then markets react on Monday. And if we cannot have a system that is fast enough, we'll just be like left behind.
Yep.
Um, so it's not easy putting together a regulated stablecoin, right? Uh, Talking about setting all that up, what is it that people outside this corner of fintech rarely understand about building a stable coin? Like, what do you think is the the hard part about it?
Yeah, a lot of it is regulatory first, mainly because depending on where you are in the world, you gotta adapt your stablecoin to the local regulations. Frankly, when we started this, we spun out Loon from Paytree back in September, and at that time, we had actually no regulatory clarity in Canada for a Canadian dollar stablecoin. By November, the beginning of November, the Bank of Canada came out and said that they're going to be regulating Canadian dollar stablecoins with the Stablecoin Act being proposed. And by the end of November, we got the Ontario Securities Commission say that they're going to be regulating stablecoins as well. So, frankly, if you're familiar with, like, Canada, you know that we generally are slow and overregulated ecosystem,
Yeah, so
and
many OSCs.
this is a prime example of how we can't get our shit straight, and we are overregulating ourselves, creating a much more difficult economy to support, and a product to support, and makes it really hard for people and businesses to operate here in Canada, not just like from a stablecoin issuer perspective, but just the rest of the ecosystem. They don't know if they can use a Canadian dollar stablecoin. They don't know who is regulating it. They don't know if they're allowed to do X, Y, Z on it. Like, we need that clarity, and we don't have that right now, frankly, in Canada. And we are in April right now. both of these regimes announced something back in November and have not provided enough clarity to the market to allow us to everyone to sort of move forward and actually build things around it. So that's the toughest part for me. Actually, building in Canada, not so much just building a regulated, transparent. Stable coin. It is,
Mm,
battling the regulation, figuring out what we need to do, figuring out what we are even essentially building, and what we can offer to our partners and what they can do with
yeah.
asset.
Like the way you paint that picture of the regulatory environment, uh, pardon my crude reference here, but it reminds me of like living in an apartment with roommates, and there's chores need to be done, but people don't know who's going to take lead on it or how to coordinate to get a thing done. So that's what slows down the 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 work that needs to be done to take care of the house. But that aside, I want to close off with a final question. What does next 12 months look like for you at Loon, and where are you guys planning on being, or working towards being?
Yeah, great question. We are currently the only Canadian dollar stablecoin in market. So we're the only Canadian dollar stablecoin you can sort of buy, sell, trade, and use anywhere in the world, particularly in Canada. Um, we're live right now. We're expanding our ecosystem. We're sort of beefing up our liquidity provisioning, our market making. We're increasing distribution partners. We do have
Mm,
more of a focus on sort of a B2B sort of angle, where we're helping businesses move like larger amounts of money, settle, not within just traditional payment rails, but allowing them to move money, evenings, weekends, holidays that, like are preventative right now. Like there is no other option, and using stable coins could help them reduce risk, get access to liquidity, and hopefully just change the business model a little bit. What we
mm,
think is that, like, if you're a fintech company and you're not at least thinking about stablecoins or figuring out how they will impact your business in the next like 6 to 12 months, some stablecoin business that will be doing the exact same thing that you're doing will come into market and challenge what you're doing. So we're sort of actively working with the rest of the Canadian fintech ecosystem,
mm.
really to sort of see how they can adapt stablecoin into their business so that they don't get disrupted by the next person that is going to build a stablecoin version of their business.
Yeah, that's really good. It reminds me back to the DeFi summer, right? To really take advantage of like new novel upsides and new markets where there's new upside, you will need to be in a position where you have stable coins.
Yep.
So yeah, and a Canadian stablecoin to have would be a powerful thing indeed. So I'll close this off. Kevin, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. Before we go, for folks in the industry who want to reach out to you, where can they find you? What's the best way to reach out?
You can reach out to me uh, directly on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter. You can find me at Kevin Zhang TO. You can email me, Kevin at Loon.finance, if you need to reach me directly. But happy to sort of talk to anyone in terms of Canadian dollar stablecoins, or really just how we can support them at Loon.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, we're gonna leave it off at here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us at this episode of the Superlative Podcast.